Fine. Please keep yourself muted unless you have any question. Otherwise, right? Please keep yourself muted. Okay. Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much, brother. Great, thank you. So this course M109 .NET Programming talks about C# programming. The first chapter we are going to talk about the philosophy of .NET. We are going to talk about .NET and features of .NET, .NET framework, where we will discuss .NET framework, the features of .NET. We will discuss the building blocks of .NET platform, where we have the common language runtime, common type systems, CLS, common language specification, right? So we're going to discuss the whole .NET framework in brief, what we have in the .NET framework, okay? We're going to talk about the C# programming language, the features of C# programming language, okay? We're going to talk about the assemblies, the intermediate language, Microsoft intermediate language, and how the .NET achieve the portability, okay? So this is what we have in the first chapter, philosophy of .NET. The objectives of this chapter is to understand .NET related topics such as assemblies, common language, common intermediate language, it's called CIL, just-in-time compilation. Just-in-time compilation help us in achieving the portability. We're going to try to understand the relationship between the various aspects of .NET framework such as CLR, Common Language Runtime, Common Type System, and Common Language Specification. We'll also talk about the base class libraries, how the base class libraries help us in programming, and the platform independent nature of .NET platform. Right? The platform independent, which is also a portability, right? If you have taken Java, you have seen that platform independent nature of programming language. Okay, fine. We start with .NET framework. The .NET framework is a software platform for building systems on Windows family of operating system, as well as on numerous other non-Microsoft operating system, whether it is Unix, Linux, or Mac OS, Android, okay, iOS, any operating system. You can design or you can build a system or a program or an application that using the .NET that works or that can be run on any operating system. Okay, this is what achieves the platform independency. Okay, which is also called portability. So that means that if you want to do any program, right, to be work on different platforms, you have a choice of using .NET framework, right? You have a choice of using .NET framework. Features of .NET: interoperability with existing code. Any existing code, that means if there is any application or any software which already exists and written in some language, right? We can interact, the .NET framework, the .NET languages can interact with that code, to enhance the application, to enhance the software, to rewrite the software or redesign the software, right? Number one. Number two, it supports numerous programming languages. It supports C++, it supports JavaScript, C Sharp, ASP.NET. Okay, it supports many different languages, the .NET framework. A common runtime engine is shared by all .NET aware languages. So that means the execution engine is a common engine that support all .NET aware languages like JavaScript, C++, okay, C programming, ASP and all. There is a language integration. You can integrate the languages. Comprehensive base library. The .NET provides you the base library, the basic functions that you can use in developing the application. A simplified deployment model. If you want to deploy your applications, what you develop by using the .NET languages, you can deploy it, and it's very simple to deploy the applications. Moving ahead, building blocks of .NET framework or a .NET platform are listed here. The first is Common Language Runtime, also called CLR in short. The runtime layer of .NET is known as the CLR or Common Language Runtime, where the program, executes, the application executes. A collection of services that are required to execute a given compiled unit of code is from the CLR, is from the Common Language Runtime. It provides you this, the services which are required to execute the compiled unit of code, which is already compiled. The primary role of CLR is to locate, load, and manage the objects of the .NET. That is, when you write a program, it creates an object. Your program is executed as an object. And sometimes in program, we create different objects. Like those who have taken Java programming, they understand this very well, the concept of objects, right? So the objects is an entity that stores some data, that has some data, it has some states, right? So we can write a program that has many different objects, right? So locating these objects, loading the objects, executing them, executing the code is one of the job of the Common Language Runtime in .NET Framework or in .NET Platform. The CLR also take care of number of low-level details such as memory management, application hosting, coordinating threads. Threads are nothing but pieces of program. For example, you have one complete program. You can make this program in pieces, okay, or parts of the programs, and every part of the program or every piece of the program is called as a thread, okay. Why we make this? Because if we want to run these different parts simultaneously or concurrently, we want to run these different parts, right? So we can divide the whole process or the whole program into pieces or parts of the program, and every program is called as a thread. We have thread concept in Java also. Those who have taken M251, right? They have taken Java threads, fine. So we have that thread concepts in Java also. So this job of CLR to coordinate the threads of any program, okay, and also to perform basic security checks for any program. It's a job of CLR. Okay. So these are some of the functions, very important functions of Common Language Runtime. Okay. This is one of the block of the .NET platform. The next block of the .NET platform is the Common Type System, which is called CTS. Right? The CTS specifies, right, all possible data types and programming constructs supported by the runtime, specifies how these entities can interact with each other and detail how they are represented in .NET format. This is the job of the Common Type System. It describes you the data types that can be used in programming while programming using .NET platform. By different programmings, like for example, you are using C#, you are using ASP, you are using C++ and all, right? So all their data types are defined in the CTS, as or defined, will described by the CTS. Fine. Also, all programming constructs supported by the runtime while executing the program, and specifies how these entities can interact with each other and details how they are represented in the .NET format. This is the job of the CTS, which is Common Type System. The next block is Common Language Specification. Okay, Common Language Specification. So what is the job of CLS is it's a related specification that defines a subset of common types and programming constructs that all .NET programming languages can agree on. Right? That also used in the CTS. Okay, so it has to be defined here in the CLS. All the programming constructs that you are going to use in the .NET framework or in a .NET platform, right, while programming. Fine. Then, so there are three blocks we have seen here for .NET platform, which is CLR, Common Language Runtime, and its functions or its features, what CLR does, CTS, Common Type System, and CLS, Common Language Specifications. Moving ahead, we have some class libraries of the .NET platform, which are called the base class libraries. There are different base class libraries that are provided for different functions or different uses. For example, there are base class library for securities. There are base class library for file input output, for threading, for graphical user interface, for database access, right? So there are a lot of libraries available in .NET platform that we can use those libraries to perform some task in our programs, in our applications. For example, if we want to read the data from the file, we want to write the data to the file, these can be performed by using the library functions which is available in the .NET platform. Okay, so base class libraries, the .NET platform provide a base class library that is available to all .NET programming languages. The base class library defines types that can be used to build any type of software application. It contains predefined methods, properties to implement common and complex functions like reading and writing to the file, graphic rendering, database interaction, reading the data, writing the data, and so on. Even the securities, the web applications, if you want to develop the web application, communicating with the web APIs, file input, output, and all. So these are all methods and these functions are available in the base class libraries. So there are a lot of base class libraries available in the .NET platform. So you can see in this figure the building blocks of the .NET platform and the base class libraries. Okay, so this together forms the .NET framework or a .NET platform. So we have the base class libraries and we have the blocks of the .NET. We have the CLR, Common Language Runtime. We have the Common Type System, CTS, and Common Language Specification, CLS. And we have the base class libraries. Libraries for database access, libraries for graphical user interface, libraries for security, remoting the APIs, file input output, for threading, and all, right? So we have libraries in the platform. So here, this is all about the .NET platform or .NET framework, right? With this, you have a clear idea about the .NET framework, what are all the building blocks of the .NET framework, as well as the base class libraries of the .NET platform. Okay. Now, moving ahead with the C# programming language that we are gonna study in this course, the C# programming language. Now here we talk about some of the features of C# programming, right? And we talk about some assemblies, the code, which is called the managed code, unmanaged code, okay? The platform independent nature of the .NET, fine. And inshallah, in the next chapter, chapter number 2, that we will take inshallah after we finish this chapter number 1, we're going to start with the C# programming by using Microsoft Visual Studio. Fine. C# programming language, it's a modern general purpose object-oriented programming language developed by Microsoft and approved by the ECMA, European Computer Manufacturer Association, and ISO, International Standard Organization. Excuse me. It is developed by Anders Helsberg and his team during the development of .NET framework. It is based on Java and C++. So one has the knowledge of these two languages or any one of these two languages. It's easy for them to learn the C# programming language. Features of C# programming: there is no pointer concepts in C# programming. Pointers concept is defined in C programming, right? You may not have studied that pointers concept. That is used to refer to the memory and to interact with the memory of the computer or the system. So that concept is not included here in C# programming. C# programs typically have no need to direct pointer manipulation. There is an automatic memory management through garbage collection in C# programming. So memory management is done automatically, so you don't need to worry about the memory management, and you don't need to use the pointers there in C# programming. Supports strongly typed queries like LINQ or any other query languages, right, to interact with the database, to interact with the various forms of data. It can be compiled on a variety of computer platforms. Now we have something called managed code and unmanaged code in C#. The code which runs under the CLR, which is Common Language Runtime, is called as managed code. Any code that you can run on the CLR, right, Common Language Runtime, okay, in the .NET platform, we call it that code as a managed code. That means that the .NET can manage the codes, okay, and it is managed environment make it possible to build, deploy, and run the .NET programs on a wide variety of target machines, right? So it is called as a managed code. And code that cannot be directly hosted by .NET runtime is called unmanaged code. Any code that cannot be hosted on a .NET platform, we call that code as an unmanaged code. Okay, so it comes from any other programming languages which is not supported by the .NET. Fine. So hence that code cannot be executed in the .NET framework or on a .NET platform. We call that code as an unmanaged code. Fine. Moving ahead, additional .NET programming languages, Visual Basic. I think most of you know this Visual Basic. You might have taken in the school. C++, JavaScript, F#, okay, or ASP.NET and all. Fine. Overview of .NET assemblies. Assemblies are fundamental part of programming with .NET framework. It contains code that common language runtime execute. It can be like a dynamic link library, or it can be an executable file, exe file. Assemblies include executable application files that can directly run from Windows without need for any other program. Assemblies are nothing but the executable programs of the .NET that can be run without need for any other program. Okay, so we can use assemblies in our program, in applications in the .NET framework. Moving ahead, Microsoft Intermediate Language, MSIL, Common Intermediate Language, CIL, and Intermediate Language, IL. Now, these are the concepts that provides the .NET with portability. By this, the .NET achieves the portability, right? The Microsoft Intermediate Language or Common Intermediate Language or Intermediate Language. If you have taken Java, you might have known about the bytecode. Every Java program, what is execute, right, is converted into the bytecode, and this bytecode is not an executable code, right? It's an intermediate code between the source code and the executable code. The source code, what we write the Java program, okay, is the source code, like which is written in English, what we understand. When we compile this source code, this will be converted into the bytecode in Java, right? The bytecode. That bytecode is a form of code that can run on any Java virtual machine, okay, or any platform where there is a Java virtual machine, okay, that will convert that bytecode into the executable code when you run that bytecode, right? So bytecode is an intermediate code. So similarly, in .NET programming languages, we have something called Microsoft Intermediate Language or Common Language, Intermediate Language, or an Intermediate Language. Okay, that will be created when you compile your .NET program. So a .NET programming language does not compile into executable code directly. When you compile it, right, it will not compile into executable code. It will not be converted into executable code. Instead, it compiles into intermediate code called Microsoft Intermediate Language. Each .NET Aware compiler produces nearly identical common intermediate language instruction. Therefore, all languages are able to interact with a well-defined binary base, which is with the intermediate language. During the runtime, when it comes to running the program, right, to check the output or to use that, the CLR, the common language runtimes, just-in-time compiler converts the intermediate language into the machine language, which is then run on the host machine. So by this, it achieves the portability or platform independency. Right? So you see here, the source code, that is your program, is converted into the intermediate language, that is Microsoft Intermediate Language or Common Intermediate, which is then converted into the executable code, machine code, into the machine language, which will be executed on machine, which will be then executed on the machine. Okay, the same concept of Java, where you have the source code, you have the byte code here, and then you have the executable machine code. Okay. Fine. That's about how the application programs or the programs in .NET executes. Moving ahead, namespace. A namespace is a grouping of semantically related type contained in assembly or possibly spread across multiple related assemblies. We are going to use the namespaces here, which has the assembly or which has the libraries that you can use in your program. Okay. There are C# programming elements designed to help you to organize your program. For example, system is a namespace and console is a class in that namespace. So when you want to use this namespace in your program, we use the keyword called using. So what we write is that we write using system. Okay. Then we can use the classes like console, and we can use the methods inside this class like write method, read method, and so on, to write the data on the screen, to read the data from the keyboard and all. Okay, so we're going to use the namespace. The platform independent nature of .NET framework, as I said, it uses the common and the intermediate languages there, right, to show the platform independence, right? So .NET applications can be developed and executed on non-Microsoft operating system, which include Microsoft OS, the Mac OS, or the Linux, or Solaris, or iOS, or Android, any operating system. Okay. When Microsoft released C# programming language, the .NET and the .NET platform, it also crafted two set of specification, which is called C# language specification and common language infrastructure. These specification enables third parties to build distribution of .NET platform for any number of operating systems and or processes. Open source .NET distributions. There are projects by .NET which are the open source projects. Fine. There is a project called Mono project. It's an open source distribution, okay, of the CLI that targets different operating systems. We have the .NET Core 5 project by the .NET, which is also support the cross-platform version of .NET, which focus on construction of code libraries and all. The Mono project is an excellent choice if you want to build a .NET software that can run on a variety of operating systems. Okay, you can use this Mono project. Okay, fine. So this is all what we have in our first chapter, which is the philosophy of the .NET platform. As a summary, this chapter includes overview of .NET framework and its features, building blocks like CLR, CTS, CLS. We have the class libraries, the role of class libraries. Then we talk about the C# programming and its features. We talk about the assemblies, the namespace, the intermediate language, Microsoft intermediate language, platform independent nature of .NET, and the open source distributions of the .NET. Fine. So this is all what we have in this chapter number 1. Before we move to chapter number 2, I'd like to take any questions if you have from your side. Any questions, please?